Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to support this bill. The committee had a very good discussion on this bill. As the Minister said, we heard 10 submissions, but they were very thorough submissions, very good submissions from a range of submitters. And can I say at the outset, Mr. Speaker, that this is a bill which obviously the Labour government started in 2004, and then we formally committed to implementing this in 2008 and allocating resources as well. I think this is very important at the outset to say, Mr. Speaker, this is an issue of animal tracing that around the world, all the key countries, exporting countries, they all have it already. We are the one actually we've been slack. And I've got a list here of the countries who have already got some kind of NAT in the system. Australia, United Kingdom, Canada, USA, in that case is voluntary, South Korea, Japan, European Union, Argentina, and Brazil, who are just for the export purpose. But I think it's very important that as we have moved forward from a number of other animal issues like animal welfare, we have a number of acts now passed for animal welfare, and also the image that we have as a green and clean country. I think going forward it's very important that we go into animal identification, because the demand is going to be ever again more and more countries and consumer going to want to have the ability to trace where their protein is coming from, which country the animals are coming from. And I think we have done well in terms of getting this bill in place, so we can assure the consumers and the countries that the meat they are eating, consuming, is coming from the reliable sources. And particularly, a country like New Zealand, which is a major exporting country, we have, over the years, we have taken leadership in many areas, whether it's technology on the farm, or whether it's processing the meat, or it's freezing the meat, for over 100 years. We have done very well. And I think it's in that way, it's important that we do this bill, because that can give consumers better choice, better understanding where their protein comes from. And I think it's also it's important as this country very serious about biosecurity, very serious about any issues to do with animal diseases, that we have a way to identify our animals, so consumers and the buyers, they know which source the animal and the protein is coming from. And I think going forward, they're going to be the consumers going to want proof where the meat has come from. And I think with this identification, and we're going to start obviously with cattle and deer, because as we get onto the system, we got to ensure that we start with the animals which are easily traceable. Of course, the next step will be to go to sheep in the future years, but because of the numbers, 30 million sheep is not going to be that easy and cheap. But I think there are a couple of points, Mr. Speaker, that I must highlight that has been raised by a number of submitters on this bill. One issue has been, how about the lifestyle block people, the people who have lifestyle blocks, small blocks, the cost factor for them, and how are we going to identify those small lifestyle blockers who are going to have few animals? There's going to be a cost issue. And as I understand, it could be $2 to $3 per animal to chip them, to microchip these animals. So that cost issue has been raised by some of the submitters, and I think it's important that we need to keep in mind that to fulfill the animal tracing requirement, the small farmers, small livestock block holders, they can be contacted. Obviously, we have this what we call farm online database, that could be useful for this purpose. The other issue which has been raised by the submitters is about the accountability of recovery. What principles are going to be used to recover the cost of chipping animals, and the levy recovery is going to be a major issue. And another issue is going to be what time, at what stage are these animals going to be microchipped? Are they going to be microchipped at the time of the birth? What happens when the animals are moved from one farm to the other farm? They move even from south to north and north to south. So those issues need to be sorted out, because there's going to be a potential problem in terms of animals are moved from farm to farm, but not sure whether they're going to be at what stage the animal is going to be microchipped. The other issue, of course, is it going to be helpful when a lot of diseases are spread by wild animals, possums? We know in New Zealand we've got millions of these terrible animals who spread diseases. And whether just doing this by microchipping the export animals, whether they're going to be good enough to stop the spread of diseases. So that's another issue one needs to look at going forward. The other issue which is going to potentially could be a problem is the dispute resolution in terms of levy payment. I think that's another issue which the ministry will have to resolve, whether these dispute going to be resolved through regulations, or should that be in the bill? Of course, other areas, often these disputes are done through the regulations rather than in the bill. So that's another concern that some of the submitters had. The other issue is going to be what process is going to be used to include other animals, like, as I said, sheep. What process is going to be used to include them into the whole NAT process. But can I say, Mr. Speaker, finally, that while we support this bill, it's something that has been ongoing for a number of years. And I'm glad at last this government has seen it serious and have taken it serious to get this bill approved, hopefully before the end of this Parliament. And I'll personally be delighted, because this is an issue, an area which, as a scientist, I have had a lot of interest over the years, because I foresee in the future, along with the animal welfare issues, along with our green and clean image, the tracing of animal is going to be very important for consumers, because they're looking for safe food. They're looking for the ability to trace the animal where the meat come from, and I think that's an edge that we should have had it for years ago, along with other countries. But I suppose one can say it's never too late. Even now, we're passing this bill, and I think it's good for the industry, it's good for the consumer, it's good for the name the New Zealand has overseas in terms of good source of protein. So with those words, Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to commend this bill to the House.
Shane Arden.
It's a pleasure to follow along from the former Speaker, Dr.